Great Swan. Initial encounter. A Paramahansa or Great Swan is a true human being, one who has realized the timeless nature of awareness, one who has awakened with relaxed delight to the indescribable, the inconceivable, the inexpressible, one who has attained the goal of spiritual evolution. To meet and communicate with a Paramahansa is to perceive through the eyes of every sacred scripture revealed during the long history of humanity, to breathe the healing atmosphere of bliss and illumination that surrounds such a person, and to hear the resonant words of a Paramahansa in intimate conversation is to commune with every saint of love, every wise sage, every mystic poet. This fully awakened being is a confluence of all the lineages of sacramental power, initiatory successions that have been cherished and carefully transmitted by generations of disciplined practitioners. Where can we encounter a true human being? The Great Swan, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, abides in a sacred garden dedicated to Goddess Kali, Great Mother of the Universe. Hidden within the perennial ancient realm of India, he lives peacefully, roaming and dancing through 20 acres of consecrated land along the Ganges River, just north of modern Calcutta. He converses for hours on end with his spiritual friends, who remain fascinated by the luminous flow of words and silences. Shall we visit these hallowed grounds to meet with the Great Swan? Ramakrishna teaches that the closer one comes to the Mother Ganga, the river of transcendent peace, the more one experiences her delicious tranquility, her subtle coolness that alleviates disease, suffering, and anxiety. As we now approach Dakshinaswar Garden, we begin to intone spontaneously, Shanti, 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 peace, peace, peace. May the perfect peace of knowing the one peace permeate us through and through, pervading all space and illuminating conscious beings everywhere. Arriving at the impressive main gate of the temple garden along the dusty highway from the conventional world, the crowded city of Calcutta, we proceed directly to the chamber of Ramakrishna, moving through exalted architecture and beside abundantly flowering gardens, a natural offering of the earth to the sublime wisdom goddess enshrined here. Even the 9 domes of the Kali temple seem to bloom from this rich, sacred soil. The Paramahansa's room is always open. He cherishes no sense of separate, private, personal space. We find him seated, comfortably, on a common wood-frame bed facing east, his wonderful eyes gazing into the perpetual dawn of divine wisdom. Smiling with delight, experiencing only the innate bliss of primordial awareness, Ramakrishna Paramahansa is conversing with his friends about divine reality, its play as the universe, its compassionate manifestation through various traditional religious forms, its nature as formless radiance that shines at the heart of every conscious being, and its essence that can never be touched by speech or mind. This is the sage's only subject of conversation, yet his approach to it is constantly new and unpredictable, welcoming and treating all visitors as messengers from his divine beloved, or even as direct manifestations of the beloved. Ramakrishna talks and laughs with them, communing as well in radiant silence for more than 20 hours every day. He feasts with these forms of his beloved, dances and sings with them, rests with them on white cloths spread over the cool stone floor during the heat of the afternoon, keeps vigil with them at the mystic midnight hour, worships with them in the temple of the Universal Mother, withdrawing alone to the pine grove only to answer the call of nature, In the delicate early morning light, and again at twilight, the Paramahansa burns incense in his room, bowing humbly and devotedly before sacred images and symbols from the diverse religious traditions of humanity. After chanting various beautiful divine names in a melodious voice and dancing gracefully, he sits at ease, in his natural state of total illumination, radiating a mother's tender concern for all conscious beings with whom he identifies his own being constantly and completely. His blessed wife, Mother Sarada, who lives almost invisibly in the small music pavilion just north of the master's room, has experienced her husband's blissful presence even in the ants that abound in the temple garden. She treats all sentient beings with loving respect, for to her they manifest the indivisible consciousness that she and Ramakrishna simply call Ma, Mother. At this temple garden of the great goddess, a timeless festival is blossoming night and day around these enlightened twin souls, Ramakrishna and Sarada. Ramakrishna's room is immediately familiar to us. Even our childhood homes seem strange and foreign by comparison. This mysterious chamber of the great SWAN, though physically small, appears vast to the eyes of the heart, a palace of the highest realization, a paradise of ecstasy, where the Paramahansa ceaselessly sings, "Become drunk, O mind, with the wine of bliss. Fall upon the sacred earth weeping and chanting the holy name. Fill space with the lion's roar, whirling round and round, both arms raised high, giving away the Maha Mantra to all conscious beings. Transform limited desire into the radiance of Krishna and swim night and day in the wild sea of rapture. The universe is now submerged beneath waves of ecstatic love." The dozen people we find seated here on the floor, raptly listening to Paramahansa as he sings traditional hymns of mystic union, represent the millions of sincere aspirants among humanity. The place is swept so clean by the sage that one can eat grapes from the floor that are scattered from the wooden throne of this humble sovereign of divine love. As Ramakrishna remarks, "I cherish only two desires, to be the king of ecstatic lovers and never to become a cross, dry ascetic." Some visitors tumble on this hallowed floor as they laugh with abandon at the master's unconventional humor, which transcends every proper boundary. Others sink down upon this heavenly floor, lost in ecstasy, during the intoxicating chanting of divine names or the absorbing rendition of mystic hymns. Ramakrishna requests some of his visitors to spread mats and sleep for an hour on this peaceful floor when they arrive at the temple garden in the evening after a long working day. Many devotees bow and touch their foreheads to this fragrant floor, impregnated over the years by incense when greeting or taking leave of the great SWAN. This holy floor is also blessed by the touch of Ramakrishna's own forehead as he prostrates before his visitors, whom he worships as part of one encompassing divine manifestation. He also prostrates spontaneously in the direction of the Kali temple, expressing the overwhelming attraction of a divine child for its divine mother. Scholars, philosophers, social leaders, artists, and revolutionaries sit on this floor for hours, temporarily free from their limited responsibilities and thirstily drinking in the surprising responses of the sage to their most burning questions. Ramakrishna serves his visitors with sweets that he orders from a local shop or that have been ceremonially offered in the Kali temple. Mother Sarada feeds them meals that she prepares with her own hands and brings from her residence in the Nahabat, silently walking the garden path. To refresh visitors, the Paramahansa humbly and graciously pours Ganges water from a large earthenware jar kept in the corner of the bare room. He opens his umbrella and places it in the western door to shield the eyes of his visitors from the harsh glare of the afternoon sun. He stands respectfully whenever his visitors leave, fervently repeating, "Divine Mother will bless you." Again and again the childlike sage teaches, one cannot recognize God the Simple One unless one is simple. Medical doctors, lawyers, magistrates, and other Europeanized professionals lose their disciplined sense of time in the timeless precinct of this chamber overlooking the holy river. This heaven for the lovers of God, this vast ocean for the knowers of oneness. Simple villagers feel completely at ease here beside wealthy aristocrats, university professors, government officials. Radical young persons unusually gifted in music, vision, or insight also gather here, vowing in the presence of this great fire of consecration, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, to renounce the conventional world and devote their entire lives, breath by breath, to the expression of the highest spiritual ideals. Whether his contemplatives retired from social responsibility or his loving revolutionaries active in renewing the fabric of social and religious institutions. In his charming and playful manner, which bears no resemblance to preaching, Ramakrishna teaches these avid young students never to compromise their high aspirations, whatever they may be, springing from whatever sacred tradition. In the midst of animated conversation and debate, when the minds of his companions are overheated, Ramakrishna bursts into song like a bird whose entire being transforms into melody. The atmosphere of the room is suddenly cooled and refreshed, plunged into the perpetual springtime of the Paramahansa's own realization. Spiritual completeness, here and now, without the slightest need for pressure or manipulation. Ramakrishna is an ocean of pure love without the slightest motive for personal gain. Into this shoreless sea our streams of limited desire flow and are released, without disturbing the perfect stillness of its depths. Yet the surface of this ocean continues to manifest gigantic waves of ecstasy, and brilliant teachings emerge from its silence. Often Ramakrishna sings, "Dive deep, O mind, into the ocean of divine beauty. You will discover a new gem, instant after instant." Longing to plunge into this profundity, we now enter together the country fair of sheer delight which is Ramakrishna's room at Dakshinaswar. Today the sage wears a yellow cloth enhancing the golden color of his complexion. We prostrate ourselves at his feet or greet him with palms joined, whatever is most natural for us. The Paramahansa accepts his visitors completely, even more so than a mother who loves her children no matter what they do, gazing for just a moment into his serene and shining eyes. Our minds become calm, and we experience an explosive sensation at the center of our chest. We are enjoying simultaneously every powerful place of pilgrimage, right here, in the Master's room. We are in Jerusalem, Mecca, Benares, Lhasa. We are on every holy mountain, Kailash, Khorasan, Sinai, Tabor, Carmel, Hira. We are visiting the Virgin of Guadalupe in Mexico and other shrines to the Virgin Mother which proliferate throughout the world. We are receiving blessings from every temple dedicated to the goddess. Her wisdom energy flows through the strong, feminine presence of Ramakrishna, who calls himself a child of the Mother but who often manifests during ecstasy as mysterious Mahakali, Great Mother of the universe. We are miraculously surrounded here by heavenly realms and transcendent pure lands, where illumined souls hear divine words and travel through mystic environments that far surpass in beauty and power the life-bearing planets scattered throughout space. The illusory barrier to the past drops away in this wonderful room. We become blessed earthly companions of Lord Buddha, Lord Krishna, the noble prophets Abraham, Moses, and Muhammad, the divinely transfigured Jesus of Nazareth. We are hearing with our own ears the electrifying discourses of the exalted saints and sages of human history. A profound silence blossoms as we sit before the radiant figure of Paramahansa, the silence of total receptivity. To attain even a moment of this inner silence, practitioners persevere for years in their disciplines of prayer and meditation. We now receive this precious gift in abundance as divine grace, streaming through the presence of Ramakrishna. Although enfolded entirely within this embracing holy presence, we still hear birds calling from the flower gardens and the songs of boatmen drifting across the waters of the Ganges. Our senses are functioning with greater range, depth, and clarity. Even the murmuring of the sacred river can be discerned. The communication that occurs in this mystic room of divine presence is intimate. Each question feels like our own. Every inspired response of the Paramahansa enters into the very depth of our mind and heart, resolving our pressing problems, as well as those we have ignored or forgotten. Following this compassionate clearing away of our poisonous doubt, this skillful dissolution of our concealed skepticism concerning the infinite significance of human life, we experience indescribable peace. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The sage suddenly leaps to his feet and sprinkles us with Ganges water from his blessed hands. He is laughing like a child. We are purified and sanctified. Our subtle nervous system becomes the holy sanctuary where God manifests, appearing vividly on the 12-petal lotus of the heart in whatever divine form attracts us most, or as formless radiance. The healing tone of the Paramahansa's voice is more familiar than we could have imagined. Our comprehension of his unexpected words is instantaneous. My dear friends, when you hear one of the glorious divine names, be it Allah, Tara, Krishna, or whichever revealed name is closest to your heart, if tears of ecstasy come spontaneously to your eyes, or if the sensation of weeping springs forth secretly in your heart, if your skin tingles and your breath catches, this is authentic confirmation that you are awakening. Then you no longer need to emphasize religious ceremonies or contemplative exercises, because what they exist to generate will remain constantly vibrant in the depth of your awareness. You will not have to renounce the formalities of religion. Formality of every kind will simply disappear from your being. The beautiful divine names will become your breath, heartbeat, sustenance, and joy. Whether or not you are receiving sacraments or engaging in disciplines, even the divine name most intimate to you will eventually disappear, and you will commune directly with the one reality which precedes and which emanates all names and forms. You will experience then only a subtle resonance or a delicate radiance. The world of conventional thought and perception will either disappear entirely or become transparent to divine light. Beloved companions, consider how the process of awakening matures. During early phases, the practices one engages in are more elaborate. The passages one chants from the scriptures more extensive. Gradually, yet inexorably, one is drawn into the living heart of worship. Simplification and intensification occur. Finally, the practice of religion merges into the source of religion. One abides blissfully in the Supreme Source, even as this infinite fountain continues to flow with all the precious sacraments, all the powerful forms of worship and meditation ever revealed to humankind. An entire afternoon has unaccountably disappeared, enjoying discourses, hymns, and silence in the Master's holy company. The mystic thunder of conch shells, gongs, bells, drums, and cymbals now emerges from the temple of the Great Mother, Mahakali, as the evening service to her begins. A warm spring wind spreads fragrance everywhere. At the end of the temple garden, from a gracefully constructed circular music pavilion, crystalline melodic forms are arising from the bina, the many-stringed instrument of Goddess Saraswati, who embodies knowledge and harmony. The easy-flowing words of Paramahansa, steady and powerful as the Ganges, are simply her divine words. Her tender speech, flowing through the honey-colored form of Ramakrishna, blends with the beauty of all manifest being, pervading heart and mind like a musical wind. Ramakrishna's sweet voice is imbued with the spirit of universal worship, the integrity of complete consecration, the freedom of transcendent insight. We continue to listen and to become absorbed. Here at Dakshineswar, the one reality is honored and adored not only as the awesome Mother Kali, whose mysterious divine blackness illuminates the universe, as Ramakrishna often sings. Dakshineswar Garden also contains a temple dedicated to the incarnation of divine love as Radha and Krishna. These sublime lovers later manifested through a single body as Chaitanya, the ecstatic Krishna dancer of Bengal, who ignited this entire land into flames of love. With Chaitanya, Ramakrishna experiences mystic identity. Joined with the Kali temple and the Radha Krishna temple, there are also 12 Shiva shrines, which celebrate transcendent vision and absorption in the Absolute. This aspect of the temple garden invokes the spirit of renunciation that leaves behind every conventional social and religious context. These 3 life-giving streams of spirituality at Dakshineswar can be perceived flowing from the living temple, the radiant body of the Paramahansa, a body so tender that it can be cut by a sharp piece of bread, a body so sensitive that it manifests the pain of someone being beaten or even of new grass being trampled, a body so refined that it experiences a strange burning sensation at the touch of conventional objects such as coins or newspapers, a body so pure that it cannot even drink water drawn by someone of negative character, a body so beautiful that its intense amber color cannot be distinguished from the golden amulet that Ramakrishna wears around his upper arm. Dakshineswar Temple Garden was founded by the revolutionary woman Rani Rasmani, who became a devoted disciple of Ramakrishna when he dedicated the Kali temple as a young priest of 19. In this garden of Rani Rasmani, wandering practitioners representing every spiritual way, men and women of rare mystic attainment, are respectfully offered sanctuary and sustenance, their various other needs being generously met from the rich storehouses of the temple. As Divine Mother wills, these advanced practitioners meet the Paramahansa, sharing with him their own initiatory streams and receiving in return mysterious blessings that accelerate their development, freeing them from subtle obstacles and attachments, including attachment to their own form of religious discipline or their own occult powers. The skillful sage simply steals away the powers of certain practitioners, explaining to them later, if you manifest supernatural powers, people will consciously or unconsciously seek to exploit you and ruin your spiritual life. During the 30 years of the Master's residence here, the temple garden has become an extended family of saints, sages, and aspirants. This is the Ramakrishna Mandala, a model and seed for global spirituality, plurivalent and harmonious. Dakshineswar Garden is a greenhouse for the future evolution of humanity. Early in this revelatory drama at Dakshineswar, Ramakrishna encountered his original woman teacher, Bhairavi Brahmani, who opened to him the full range of mystical relationships between the soul and its Lord, as divine friend, divine child, divine lover, and who led him as well through the intricate ceremonial practices of Tantra. Soon afterward, he encountered his principal male guide, Totapuri, who taught the Paramahansa to wield the sword of unitive wisdom, which cuts away the veils called soul and Lord, and which leaves esoteric ceremony behind. Both these advanced adepts from opposite ends of the spiritual spectrum received radical new awakening through companionship and communion with this blissful sage, who was then simply called the Mad Priest of Dakshineswar. Ramakrishna moves spontaneously, like a young child. He never manifests as stern ascetic or respectable teacher, although his renunciation of self is flawless, and his oral knowledge of scripture and tradition is encyclopedic. When the great woman practitioner, the Brahmani, convened the most highly regarded religious scholars and adepts of the day to consider the astounding realization of Ramakrishna, the childlike Paramahansa sat naked among them on the sacred earth, chewing spices from his pouch and replying calmly to their affirmations about his unprecedented spiritual stature. You may well be correct, respected mothers and fathers, but I know nothing about it. These were disciplined, critical persons, not emotional disciples. They concluded unanimously that Ramakrishna is an avatar, a direct, fully conscious manifestation of divine reality in human form. One of the Pandits, who was also a tantric master, became absorbed in ecstasy while contemplating the variety and depth of Ramakrishna's realizations, including the 19 modes of devotional ecstasy and the siddhis, or attainments, of the 64 tantras. This Pandit proclaimed Ramakrishna to be the distillation and manifestation, within a single body, of every holy being from sacred history, both earthly and heavenly. To this assertion, the Paramahansa simply replied, I am the dust on the feet of the servant of your servant. The great SWAN now turns to us individually, as we sit with remarkable comfort on a thin palm mat that he tenderly spread for us on the stone floor. With great frankness, he questions us about our cultural and religious background, our marital status, our mode of livelihood. He even closely examines the features of our faces, the lines on our hands, the shape of our feet. He whispers to us with surprising intimacy, You see, there are some good signs about you. I know them by looking at the eyes and the forehead. Those persons who in previous incarnations passed their time in communion with God often appear to have just left their seat of contemplation. During the first intensity of falling in love, the meetings between the lovers come more frequently than at later times. You should now visit this place very often. Throughout these inquiries, we can feel the Master's compassionate gaze, probing and evaluating our previous experiences and clearly envisioning our destiny in this lifetime, extending his vision as well into the future, when we will reach the culmination, However we may understand this final goal in terms of the revelatory traditions most compelling for us, during this process, our replies coming forth effortlessly, without the slightest sense of nervousness or embarrassment, without feeling any need for hesitation or concealment, the Paramahansa appears to be engaging in conversations on several planes of awareness, as he briefly closes his eyes or gazes into the distance. But when the focus of his attention returns to us again, after one of these mysterious journeys, which may take only a few seconds, his eyes are clear, sparkling, responsive. Nothing of our interchange has been forgotten. The alertness and concentration of the sage are extremely sharp, like those of an experienced fisherman, craftsman, or athlete. Occasionally he becomes lost in ecstasy. He speaks to an invisible presence, stammering slightly in a charming manner, appearing like someone rather drunk on strong wine. These more extended moods also succeed one another with astonishing rapidity. We receive the impression of a secret inner richness of experience beyond our comprehension. Sometimes, as if to propel himself toward the earthly plane of awareness, the God-drunken lover before us requests a glass of water or draws once or twice on a hubble-bubble, a water pipe that burns an aromatic mixture of tobacco. We wonder at first whether it contains some intoxicating herb, particularly since the Paramahansa jokes that lovers of God are like hemp smokers, who can always recognize one another. But we soon discovered that the sage's radically purified and sensitized nervous system makes it difficult for him to digest plain food, and that any use of intoxicating substances is impossible. When the blissful Paramahansa sits, as he loves to do, in a circle of the esoteric worshippers of Goddess Kali, who pass around a skull cup filled with sanctified wine, he simply repeats the word for wine, which also means great cause, and immediately attains the sublime absorption which is the goal of this particular practice. The sacred wine bowl never even touches his lips. The same is true for sacramental sexual union, practiced among certain authentically initiated tantric adepts whom the master never disdains, always insisting, divine reality is infinite, and infinite are the ways to realize it. Ramakrishna needs simply to envision within his own subtle body the blissful union of Shiva and Shakti, the masculine and feminine energies of transcendence and immanence, in order to enter samadhi, the total absorption of body, mind, heart, soul, and spirit, in the one reality that he calls Akhanda Satchidananda, indivisible being, consciousness, and bliss. When anyone asks Ramakrishna to become his or her religious guide or guru, he invariably replies, Satchitananda is the one and only guru. Ramakrishna and his consecrated wife, Mother Sarada, have never engaged in the marital sacrament of sexual union, simply because of the intensity and fullness of their mystical union as Shiva and Shakti. When the young wife once playfully complained to her God-intoxicated husband about not bearing physical children, he laughed and replied, Saradamani, you are the jewel of universal motherhood. You will have so many spiritual children that your ears will burn with the constant cry, Mother, Mother, Mother. This prophecy has been fulfilled. Sarada is fervently addressed as Holy Mother by countless lovers of truth who discover their eternal companionship with Ramakrishna, a relationship not definable in terms of social or religious structures, a relationship not contained within time or linear history, a relationship which is not characterized by any sense of duality. Near midnight, we finally leave this miraculous room where conventional time disappears, where past, present, and future manifest together as an indivisible transparency, clear in every direction. The sage addresses us warmly. Come again, come again. This open invitation continues to vibrate with great initiatory power at the center of our consciousness. Whether we are awake or sleeping, we experience intense restlessness, thirst, and longing until we do indeed return to the oasis of the temple garden. Whether the journey appears as a carriage ride from Calcutta or a steam trip up the Ganges, or whether it appears as an internal act of prayer or meditation. The laughing Paramahansa likens this process of divine attraction to the practice of feeding small pills of opium to peacocks so that they will return every evening at the auspicious twilight hour to display their heavenly plumage. The plumage of the lovers is ecstasy. Yet the desperate longing of the awakened human lover for the divine beloved is incomparably more powerful than the addictions of the egocentric world. Ramakrishna teaches that such true longing, cherished by the most refined saints of every tradition and beautifully expressed by the yearning of the milkmaid Radha for her beloved Lord Krishna, is more powerful than the combined forces of the miser's love for gold, the obsession of an illicit love affair, and the loyal attraction between consecrated husband and wife. A few fortunate persons have experienced the very yearning of Radha, running several miles to the temple garden from the worldly metropolis of Calcutta, their eyes blinded with tears, their sandals abandoned somewhere along the way, their clothes covered with straw from scrambling through haystacks as they cut directly across open fields, not willing to follow the circuitous route of the ordinary road. Other elevated souls have experienced deep renunciation of limited goals and selfish desires, accompanied by non-discriminating love for humanity and divinity arise within them, at home, at school, at places of business or service, simply when envisioning this miraculous temple garden and the Paramahansa of divine love, and the divine knowledge waiting ardently and joyously for them within its innermost precincts. Some aspirants shed tears so copiously that the words or numbers being inscribed by them with the ink of obsession on the ledger of the convention are washed away, never to reappear. Come again, come again. The lilting tone, the unsuspected power, the infinite attractiveness of these simple words from the bearded lips of Ramakrishna Paramahansa now pervade our entire being. We have come to the lotus feet of our Master. We have tasted intimacy with divine mystery. As the playful sage often remarks, smiling, if you bite into a hot pepper, whether knowingly or unknowingly, your tongue will burn.